Christian.
Or
And
then
he was
can you?
actually taken in so thoroughly by his arguments, Abraham Lincoln sent him to France to convince the French Continental Congress to abolish slavery, which was also successful.
Yeah, so the 1700 year or the 1800 years after Jesus, it took 1800 years for Christians to say, "Oh, we should get rid of slavery." It's like it
This
took.
I
this would
mean,
have
it's
to be
easy to laugh, but if it wasn't for Christians, it probably still would never have happened.
Well,
the
that's a fallacy because that was just the people who were in charge. A lot of them had to be Christian. So that doesn't mean they did it because of Christianity. If they did it because of Christianity, Jesus should have abolished slavery. He should have told all of his followers
right,
slavery is
right.
bad. He did it
But
though.
the reason it didn't
He
happen.
specifically said you should obey your master.
Okay, but again, yeah, he says, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render
Not
unto
just
God what
that.
is
That's
God's."
about the government. He said
Yeah,
obey
so
slave.
the
Slave.
government was pushing slavery.
No, he said, "Hey, there's slave. Obey your master's slave."
I would give credit to Abraham Lincoln, not to the Bible, because Bible never abolished the slavery. So this is just a simple excuse just to impure your religion, but it's not real thing. The other thing I would be saying that I would like to know what the ethics are in any religion. I would like to know that.
I think they're talking about Philemon and Onesimus. That's the story that we're talking about from the New Testament, right?
Yeah.
That's the narrative. Yeah, the Christians have a different kind of narrative on that. They're like, well, Paul isn't actually condoning slavery, but it's kind of like a phase out type of thing, and it's just that working within the society. I get it that people could counter it and say, well, why not just get rid of the whole thing? You got God on your side. So there's multiple ways that you could look at that narrative.
Well, it's just a post hoc rationalization to make it look like Christianity was the cause for abolishing slavery. No, I would say it would be those English philosophers I was talking about, Hobbes, like social contract theory, the harm principle, these concepts that were part of the Enlightenment, to say it's immoral to cause harm. People need to consent to do things, and then what was the problem was is they were considering like African people not to be human, so these like concepts shouldn't apply to African people. So once people realized it should be applied to everybody, people's minds change. It wasn't because of Christianity. I reject that entirely.
I hear that, and I want to add one thing too. We are looking at things through a Eurocentric mindset. We're looking at like transatlantic slave trade that came from European folks. People got rid of enslavement of human beings in other cultures too. You know what I mean? There's different laws and rules. Like, it's funny. I learned about Western philosophy because I took a graduate class called the Kyoto School of Philosophy. I knew nothing about European philosophy, but I learned about European philosophy by studying Japanese philosophers, and it was really amazing. And Indian, like Nagarjuna, for example. You know what I mean? And Bodhidharma and Nishitani is a Japanese philosopher, but it's super cool. And seeing the kind of dialogue, because we're so like inundated by European culture. Like, we just think that the whole world revolves around European stuff. And I'm like, Europe has a place, but other cultures do too. That's my 2 cents on that,
Yeah. And that's another problem. Like me, like I know Western history. I don't know Eastern history very well. So I look at everything through the lens of what I know.
And it's not your fault. We're indoctrinated to think so. Like, American culture, we're taught in the American system to learn European culture. That's what we're taught. And we're taught very little about other cultures. We barely know anything about South Asia or China. We know so little about these other cultures, and that's a problem.
Yeah. And the debate, I don't know if it's wrapping up yet. Justin sent me a message saying it's still going crazy with the Q&A. But I just can't sit there and watch it anymore. But so people, if they're tuning in, I will put a chapter mark for when our official conversation starts after the debate's over. We're just sort of like the Q&A's on. Like, it's probably a better debate going on with the Q&A than was actually going on with the argument.
I was really just like, I can't wait till we start talking about it, but I'm just like, dude, there was a lot of misrepresentation and a lot of hypocrisy. So that's something I hope we can talk about when we get into the conversation. So much hypocrisy. I could not believe it, you know. Double standards, all of that, you know.
We'll definitely get into some of that, I think. Go ahead,
that
Peter.
definitely is everywhere.
I think you need to try to be consistent in your worldview. We're not perfect. We're humans. We're flawed. But try to be consistent in your narrative. Don't try to say one story and then hold people to a different standard than you hold to yourself. I always try to do that, and I'm not perfect, but I try to hold people to this. I try to hold, like, if I'm holding a standard, I try to hold that to myself first before I impose it onto others. You know.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
But
hey, Tyler,
it was sparks were flying.
Oizen, did you create this channel for debates or only just for the discussion?
It's matters now. The things that matter now today. It's turned into like a pre and after show for debates. So these shows are about the debate performance. It gets into debate a little bit back and forth, but then we have a Sunday show. We've done other shows, but I've been busy with like flat Earth stuff. Unfortunately, I want to do more stuff about climate change, and I want to do more stuff about different conspiracy theories. And we also want to start doing stuff about politics too. But I really need somebody who can just take charge of like a politics show and like start scheduling that stuff, because I don't have time to schedule everything. But we're
and the Baldur's Gate.
What's that?
And the Baldur's Gate. Happy birthday, by the way. I saw you on today, and I couldn't get
happy birthday. I forgot that.
That's okay. I was hoping for like millions of dollars in super chats, but that's okay. It's okay. I don't need.
I'll send you one, brother. Don't worry. I'll send you a super chat.
Just keep some of mine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Keep some for me.
I was like, this will guilt trip any, but no, I'm kidding. Anyways, I actually moved this Friday too. I got my little. I'm selling my big house and bought a little home. It's still 3 bedrooms, 1,100 square feet, but it's just for me, versus like 12 bedrooms, 3 kitchens, like 5 bathrooms, and 6,000 square feet. I don't need that much space. That's not counting the attic and the basement either. It's like huge.
Ocean, what state are you from?
What?
What state are you from, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm from Oregon originally.
Oregon.
Yeah.
That's the state I want to go to Portland.
Go Ducks. Yeah.
I'm a Philly guy, Pennsylvania. Have you been to Philly before?
Yeah, I'm close to Philadelphia.
I love Philly. It's my jam. I know it's got its problems, but I just love my city. You know? It's a city of brotherly love, kind of.
Interesting story while we wait for the debate to end. My plane got canceled. I don't know what happened. They didn't tell us. So I decided to get a ride from the Philadelphia airport to home. And somebody shows up. It's like a 5-hour drive, 4-hour drive or whatever. Like $500. My work paid for it though, so whatever. And I'm talking to them in the ride, and turns out they're trans, like female to male, and he feels comfortable enough to tell me they're trans. Like I wouldn't have known. Like I couldn't tell. Like just a small dude. Like there's lots of small dudes, but especially in Pennsylvania. Like I think 5'7" is like the average height, if I had to guess, of men in Pennsylvania.
Oh, and Issa, before you got here, somebody said all religions were bad, and I found myself on the edge of saying, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater," and I thought of you. So you missed that. You missed that.
I don't think all religions are bad. I think they're all false. And I don't think you just do away with religion and expect the world to become better. You need
the thing is why I say all religions are bad, because they are provoking to kill innocent. They are like Islam. Islam is provoking to kill innocent. Similar thing is like you need to fight for Allah. You need to fight for religion. If you die, you are martyred. If you are alive, you're still alive. And you need to work for dawah. And these people, they are doing interpretation, and they are just trying to protect their religion. Similar thing with every single religion.
Well, Muhammad didn't go out there and kill everybody. He allowed people to live within his territory that were not Muslim. So Muhammad didn't do that.
But
Who did the Jains kill? Who did the Buddhists kill? When was there a Scientology war?
Buddhists
It's just not
killed
fair.
Buddhist groups kill people. Hindu groups kill people. There's horrible stories what some Hindu groups have done to Muslim groups, and the other way around. Like if you look at the conflict over Kashmir, it's horrible between the Muslims and Hindus. If you look at the reason why Pakistan was separated from India and Bangladesh, I think, right? If you want to tell me, I think it's
That's
Pakistan
right, yeah.
and Bangladesh were separated from India.
Separated from India.
Yeah, like there's a whole conflict.
Yes, just
there.
because of religion. You see, the point is going to the religion everywhere. The conflict because of the religion. The conflict because of the religion. Even though you talk about Israel and Palestine, it's because of the religion. If you talk about Pakistan and India, it's because of the religion. So the problem is coming from the religions.
So why does China oppress the Uyghurs? Is it because Xi is religious and he's oppressing them because of his religion?
The China is entirely different. It's a land mafia. I don't support China at all.
So it's not
a land
religion.
mafia.
The point Dr. J just demonstrated, all the bad stuff isn't just about religion. There's more motives that people have than just about what God they believe or not in. So, and he pointed it out beautifully by asking that question. So he's asking you to be self-reflective and consider what you said in the past and apply it to what's going on in China.
Well, China doesn't believe any religion. I don't think they do believe in any religion. There might be, some of Buddhist or some of different type of, religions, but the government and the majority of are non-believer. So, but the problem with China that they are looking for money, they are looking for more land, and that's what the fight between India and China. But between India and Pakistan, it's a Kashmir issue. It's a conflict because they support. This is my Muslim brother, and India is trying to keep it because this is also important for India because the temple inside the mountain areas, and this is their holy places. That's the reason India don't want to lose that. And might be there is other benefits like fruits and stuff like that. So the issue, if you say the religion is giving us ethics, can you prove me some ethics? What the religions are giving us?
I never said the ethical frameworks were ones I approve of.
Really? But I heard something like that. That's why I was asking.
No, I never said. I said just because you remove the religion doesn't mean the world will suddenly become better the next day. You have to have some type of ethical framework to supplant it. And that's why I argue for ethical frameworks. And that's why I argue that even if you are religious, you should adopt my ethical framework because it's best for you and best for the people that aren't part of your religion. So I had a debate with DB, who's working on his PhD in human rights or something like that in Cambridge or something like that in the UK. And Dave, he's been on the show a couple times early on. He's very right wing, not very right wing. He's more right wing, but he thinks that you need a belief in God to ground human rights. And so I had a debate with him about that topic. And I said, my main argument was, well, how do you convince Muslims that their God's the right one? And how do you deal with conflicts between the Muslim interpretation of what God is and the Christian interpretation of God is or the Hindu interpretation, because they all have different interpretations about what it means to be good to God. And how do you convince an atheist to adopt that God is the grounding for ethical frameworks? And you can't. So I think you need to ground ethics in something else than a God, and that's what I argue for. That's what I said. So they have an ethical framework. Morality, if morality exists, it's either true or not, right? So if morality is true, then what's good is good, and what's bad is bad, objectively so. But ethical frameworks, I know often we consider them sort of be synonymous. I don't. I think ethical frameworks can be good or bad, and we see that all throughout history when we have certain ethical frameworks that, like, say slavery is good. So I would say that framework is bad, and I know it's bad based upon my own axiomatic belief of what it means to be immoral. I would say any framework that accepts slavery is objectively bad. But that would be my argument to people that are religious of why they should adopt my moral framework. And then if they can give up their belief in God, I also offer an argument of why why you should believe in naturalism over something else, or why you're justified at least to believe in naturalism. You don't have to give up your religion, but I think.
I mean, the ethical is pretty a common sense thing. If you don't believe any religion, that means you are unethical. No, that's not right. Even though morality, when I see somebody is dying or somebody got in car accident or he is injured, I'm not looking. He's a Muslim or he is from a religion. Even though if it's a wild human being, I will be just going to help him up. So I don't need religion to tell me that I need to go and help him up.
Right.
But my basic understanding is telling me, oh, that's a human. He's dying. I have to help him. So I don't think there is anything. Yeah, I agree with you. Some of the part, like in the past, we might need a religion to imply some type of law. But since the laws are a lot better than the religions now, so we don't need that type of religions. It's better to get rid of religion. We all have a better consciousness. We better understand things. We better know how to walk and work. We don't need any dictation from any holy book.
So the laws of China.
I would challenge that to a degree. I'm like, if you say you get rid of religion, don't you think some other system will come and take place? Like, science fiction writers talk about this all the time. I think you're looking at it through a hyper idealistic narrative that just because, let's say these religions we have now just disappear, that doesn't mean another religion won't appear. You can read Brave New World. You can read 1984. You can call these ideologies religions, behavior, belief, and belonging. So I think it's very strange to say, well, if all the religions get wiped out, we're going to have an ideal utopia. I don't think that that's factual or even true in reality.
So you think, are you saying that if there is no religion, we are going to be like disabled? We are not going to have any good system?
We're going to create new religions.
I'm just trying to
erase all these
understand
religions.
that.
You'll create new ones.
I don't think that's we can have a better society without the religion. Like we can see other countries, some of the countries, they don't practice any religion and they are running far better than any country. Like United States, they don't. Our constitution is not based upon the religion. We are secular. That's why everybody have equal rights. If we imply religion, then it might be only the Christian country, it might be only the Buddhist country, or it might be only the Muslim country. Then there might be a discrimination for the others. And that's what I'm trying to say, that we really don't need any religion.
Well, where would you rather live? Would you rather live in China or the Vatican City? Even though you can't really live in the Vatican City.
Well, America, this country is secular country. I'm living in a secular country. Like the other people there, we do have a freedom of speech. We can speak whatever we want to speak. But if this is really a religion country, then we are not even allowed to say anything. Like in Muslim countries, and that's why they are not able to grow. They don't have any scientists. That they are not growing like America or any other country. So why do you think that religion is very important?
I'm not saying religion is very important. I'm saying I would rather live in the UK, where the king is the Church of England, than in China, which doesn't have any state religion. Like, I would prefer to live in the US, of course, but like, I'm not saying just because there's religion like incorporated within the state infrastructure that it's necessarily a bad place to live. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to solve as many problems as you think. You know what I mean? Like, I think you think this is going to solve a whole bunch of problems. And while I do agree that some theologies are problematic, I'm not sure it's going to usher in a utopia that you're hoping that you think it may. Yeah, I'm not saying you're saying it's utopia. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to solve as many problems as you may think it's going to solve.
Yeah, and welcome Wesley to the stage. I think this is the first time I've seen you, at least on the open stage, telling the visionary. What brings you to the show, to talk about the debate, or what do you have to say?
Well, first, would you inform me what the debate centers upon, what its premise is?
Okay, so Modern Day Debate, which is a YouTube channel, has debates all the time, if you're not familiar with them. And it was apostate prophet versus Muslim skeptic Daniel Hikikachu about which religion, whether Judaism or Islam, caused the Israeli-Palestinian war. Very weird topic to me. I don't know how it followed. I think AP, apostate prophet, he's an atheist. I think he probably made the best argument because of Hamas's documents to say that the trees and rocks will, if Jews are hiding behind them, they'll start telling you to go find them and kill them there.
Right. I can tell you what started that war in 4 very simple words.
Sure.
Nyan, 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 nyan.
Can you interpret that in English? Well, I don't know what language that was.
Nyan, 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 nyan is what started that war. It's a childish thing, an arrogant, childish thing.
You want to expound upon that? Like,
no, that's I'd be better off, and you would be better off if I don't comment.
That's fine. So we're just waiting for the debate to end. It's still going on, and then I have sort of a structured format to go through where we'll discuss like the different arguments on both sides. Yeah, the dog's barking. That's bad. I have a parrot over here that squawks too.
I'm going to go answer my front door. I'm not going to leave. I'll be right here.
Okay, I'll hold your place. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Robin. Oh yeah, you're here too. Welcome. I didn't introduce you.
Was you waiting on to say anything about the debate till it was over?
It's still going on.
Yeah, I know. I paid. I got 3 super chats in, and I picked specific reasons that I asked those questions, and I asked Daniel, did he condemn? Because I told him I condemn the murder of children and non-combatants on either side.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see how that killing people is ever going to solve anything. And I did him and AP both condemn that. And he dribbled around the question. He did not answer it. And then I asked him how much of Israel actually belongs to Palestine, and he said all of it. I mean, there's it's that is one thing that AP and David. I watch AP and David's show a lot, and that's one thing that they talk about, that Islam Hamas wants the total annihilation of the Jewish state, and there's that's just not, it's not reasonable. I mean, it's not reasonable for them to destroy all of the Palestinians either, but there's nobody's going to. You don't get all of it. It's not all of it. It's Israel's there. They've set up a country, and there's going to have to be. And so then I asked, would you find a solution, a 2-state solution? Would you say that if we reached a 2-state solution, then denounce all future attacks? No, he would not. No. He would not do that. I mean, so pretty much what David and Issa knows, because Issa's been on their show, what David and AP say about the fact that they want to just eliminate all the Jews, period. It's pretty much Daniel kind of stuck with that. I mean, he kind of admitted that with his answers, I thought.
Yeah, he doesn't like Jewish people.
Yeah, but I mean, Israel's Israel. It's there.
I know.
You know,
But
and
you
I
forgot
don't like
he
what
wants to live in an extremist Jewish state over a secular one.
That's right, Issa. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You've been on David's show. You know what I'm talking about. That I mean, and I don't even like Ben Shapiro. I don't like Ben Shapiro, but David and AP did show that debate with where Ben went to Oxford and had these discussions, and they showed where every one of the people that they asked about how much of Palestine was Israel, holding, and it was all of it. And it was like there was none of them would ever claim that Israel had a right to be there too. And it just, I mean, it just it shows a whole lot of the whole mindset, don't you think, Issa?
I do. I think it's extremely problematic.
Yes.
That worldview. It's like saying, "Hey, I want everything," and I'm like, first and foremost, this is the funny thing, is that Daniel wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to say, well, I believe in the caliphate and I believe in an Islamic world, but I also believe in nation states, because he wants he's talking about a Palestinian nation state, but Islam doesn't believe in nation states. So he's facing a conundrum here, so
yeah, it's
ridiculous.
Just, I mean, it just strengthens the narrative. It strengthens Israel's argument for what they're doing. Actually, you know what I mean?
Sound more justified. Like, yeah, they want to get rid of us all.
I mean, it does. What he say when they answer questions like that, and I will say, at least Daniel, you know what I mean? At least I guess he's honest enough not to lie and say, oh yeah, we'd be happy with a two nation state or whatever, and then turn around and go against what he said. That's the only thing I can say, is that at least he's honest enough to not answer the question with a lie. But
he was pretty dishonest about a lot of things, Robin.
Well, I know, but that's probably true. But he didn't lie about that. I mean, and none of them seem to. I mean, they all answer the question the same way, that all of Israel should not be there. I mean, that's pretty much every one of them, and that's the reason why I asked that specific question. And AP jumped on it as soon as they asked it too, because I mean, because that's one of the main pushing the things they push, that they want to eliminate Israel completely. You know what I mean?
Robin, was my question asked? I didn't get to see it because I was serving the homeless, so I wasn't able to see it.
He said, what was your question?
My question is, if you critique Judaism, do you critique Islam
too? Yes. Your question was asked, and I'm trying to remember the answer. Well, of course, Daniel said that they do not critique Judaism. And I will say AP probably is a little harder on Islam because he was a Muslim, an ex-Muslim. But AP is an atheist, and so and he doesn't critique Christianity as hard because him and David are really tight, and he's on that show with all those Christians. I mean, but AP is I don't think that he has anything good to say really about religion necessarily, or he would be religious.
And you mean David Warnock, right?
I'm talking about David Wood.
David Wood.
Oh, David Wood. Oh, okay.
David Wood's my buddy also.
Yes, Issa was on David's show, and Issa did so good because AP had coronavirus, or I shouldn't say. Anyway, so AP had that and was out for a week, and Issa filled in one night.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched it. Issa did real well.
Well, thank you.
So I'm looking at this.
My Southern Belle.
I'm looking at this poll right now. They're on the modern day debate. There's 5,500 votes in, and 51% say Islam is the cause of the war. Not.
I don't really think that it's necessarily about religion, and not always. It goes back to a whole lot of land, shuffling around. But as far as what I know is that after the Ottoman Empire was defeated, and you can tell me if this is right, he said the French and the English split up, like what that part of the land, and they there was the French mandate and the English mandate.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole lot of shuffling going on during World War II. That I really, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of claims on both sides. There were settlements. There was some land that was bought by some of the Zionists, and then some that was taken by the Zionists after they but it comes down to pretty much once Israel was set up as a nation, their first Declaration of Independence set aside a, 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 a certain amount of land for the founding of Palestine. And the people that were supposed to be Palestine, and it was a lot larger than what is now. You know what I mean? It wasn't just the Gaza and the West Bank then. There was a whole lot more land. There was where Jordan is and some of the areas, and they refused it. And it's been, there's been like at least 5 different times. Is that right? He said that they've tried to come to some kind of agreement on the land.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
They've refused it every time. Every time the Arab states have refused it. They went to the 6-day war, even over this was over that. And so after the 6-day war, Israel took more land because they were attacked. They were at war. They ended up with more land than they had when they were attacked for the 6-day war. And they've retained that land, right? And which made Israel larger than it actually originally began, but it was because they actually won more land in the war.
And there's definitely a lot of complexities on both sides. I think it's a very complex, difficult situation that we have to acknowledge. It's complex, it's difficult, it's not easy. There were definitely mistakes on both sides of this situation. I always try to be like neutral on that, and I think you definitely have the 6 Arab nations, and you also have like Nakba, and you have intifadas. I wish all that stuff kind of got brought up because that's kind of important to engage the history, like what is going on here. And personally,
none of that was talked about. I mean, none of the actual peace talks and the rejection of the peace talks, and none of that was ever brought up. And that's all. What has been the foundation of this war. You know what I mean? Not the biblical or things, the writings of either religion, actually.
I think it's totally true. I think because first and foremost,
hold on, guys. We'll bring it up again. But the debate's over now, so we're going to start the show officially. So at 2450, I will put a chapter note in here for anybody that's coming to this. We've had a long discussion, and I'll put a chapter note in the.
Well, I'm gonna go mod. I'm gonna get off and go mod, and hopefully AP and them are coming. I hope he comes.
I hope AP comes. That'd be awesome.
Need to get Issa. Did you invite him? Didn't you?
I haven't talked to him. I don't have his email, but I would if I did.
I would love him, Daniel, too.
I started to pay for a super chat to invite both, but I didn't.
Okay, yeah, if you got to leave, Dr. J, that's okay. I appreciate having you here, but so I want to start. So we just got finished with the debate on modern day debate between apostate prophet and Muslim skeptic. That's Daniel Kikachu, if no one's familiar with him. And the debate was on the Israel-Palestinian war debate, which was the cause Islam or Judaism. So it went in the weeds about stuff that wasn't necessarily about the debate, I think personally. But so we have right now on the panel, we have Dr. J. I'm right here, and then Tyler right below me. We got Wesley, who's new to the channel. I'd like to get your views. I don't think you watched the debate, Wesley, but maybe you can chime in with something important to the conversation, I hope. And then we have Isa down here also on the panel. We've been spending the last 85 minutes just chit-chatting about the debate, so maybe we've hashed some stuff out, but we'll try to make it engaging anyways. It looks like Tyler had some issues.
Sure. The land called Israel was given to the Hebrews by God.
Okay.
He is Jesus. I'm a Jew, and this is going to sound bitter to you, But in Scripture, I'm the Prince of Israel, the man with the dove of Noah's Ark over his head, which sadly your camera can't film. And they could stop that war in the next day and heal every disease known to mankind and feed every hungry person if they would just come out and say, you know what? I saw green grass in a dream from Jesus. It means everybody saw the vision. I saw a foot cut off and it didn't bleed. It means that I don't believe in Jesus's forgiveness. And I saw a square pit and palm trees with orange red in them. What that vision is a pearl of light, of Jewish light in everyone's bellies. And when you tell it, it restores the ashes in a person's soul. And if anyone tries to harm you when you are that light, Jesus will remove their hedge and fall them at your feet before they can strike you. And you don't have to break any of the 10 commandments to watch them fall.
Well, that's cool, Wesley. That isn't really the show format. So
the thing about the debate, the war has become on TV too much of a sport. There has to be a winner and a loser rather than everyone wins.
I ask you a question, Wesley, really quick. Did you call into Eric's show, Skeptics and Scoundrels, or
probably did?
I heard you on there for a little bit.
Probably did, but Palestine started this war when they invaded and killed those people at that hedonistic dance party out in the wilderness. They broke through the lines. They started murdering people with their little paratrooper things. They started. The Hamas began this thing, and I don't know what Israel's going to do about it. It looks like they're not going to let up until the hostages are returned or the hostages are murdered and they've gotten rid of the entirety of Hamas. I think they're dead set on that.
I think that's what their stated goal is to recover the captives and to destroy or disable Hamas. It doesn't mean that's what it'll devolve into in the end. I would love to talk about your other claims later. Actually, Dr. J, but not on this discussion today. Dr. J is actually a theologian, he's a Christian too, so maybe we could have some interesting conversations. And Isa also is ethnically Jewish and Muslim, so he has some interesting contributions, and he's also a theologian too. So
Isa is Jewish.
Yeah. I think your mother's Jewish.
That's
is that correct?
Isa, this is not going to make any sense to those other two people. It will sound like confusion and craziness and something that's just harebrained. I'm the man that met Noah and gave him the plum. Okay? So now you know who I am.
Okay, thank you, Wesley. But we're going to talk about the discussion. So I want to talk about AP's performance, and I know I got rid of everybody's names. I'm sorry. I have this. I don't know if people can read this. I'm going to get rid of the banner. If they can't read it, that's fine. So on my display, it says, what, right here. What do you think about AP's performance? Was it poisoning the well? Especially his opening argument. We'll start with Dr. J before you go to play your basketball game.
Yeah, I thought I didn't appreciate the poisoning well aspect of it. So not everything he did was poisoning the well, but I think there was no reason to harm his own credibility that way. So if I were him, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have recommended it. I do think he did a decent job of trying to say, hey, Hadith says this, and I'm trying to tie that Hadith with what Hamas says. Because I don't think you can just say, well, Hadith say these things. You need to actually say that Hamas believes in them. I think he did try to do that. So I don't know. I thought he did a decent job.
And for people that didn't watch all the debate or don't remember the quote, the Hadith, which is Sahih Muslim 29:22 says, the hour will not come unless the Muslims will fight the Jews and kill them until the Jews hide behind a stone or a tree. And a stone or a tree would say, Muslim, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him. But the tree, Garkad, would not say, for it is a tree of the Jews. So I guess there's a Jewish tree that won't tell them. But this is in the Hamas declaration, their manifesto. This is in the Palestinian Authorities, like calls to prayer that apostate prophet brought up to tie the fact that the Islamic faith has something to do to motivate them to engage in this conflict. And I think this was his, and to me, I think this was his only argument, like, wasn't it? To tie it directly from a religious scripture to the government leadership to motivation to attack the festival and kill 1,200 people. Right? What do you think?
What I think, yeah.
Yeah. And the poison in the well, for people who aren't familiar, there's some apologetics about young marriage, and I don't want to talk about that. We're not talking about that topic on this show today, even though they went into that a lot. I do not want those type of apologetics. So since I don't want the apologetics for those claims, I'm not going to let people attack them right now. This isn't the time. But I'll go to Issa next. What did you think about AP's performance, and do you think he was poisoning the well with his claims he was making about Daniel?
I think we shouldn't have. I'm gonna probably be in agreement with the rest of y'all on this. I think we should focus on the topic. We don't need to talk about the young marriage stuff. I think that the topic was which one is responsible, Judaism or Islam, which personally to me, I don't think is a very good topic. I just don't think it gets us anywhere, because I think religion is polylythic. I don't think we can just stick religion into a box and say that's religion. But I wish AP really was focusing more on the history and the facts and looking at the Islamic elements. And I do like that he mentioned Sunni. He didn't say it's all Muslims. He did focus on that, which I think is important, because we do need to make distinguishments. Like, people could say, well, look at Christianity and say, here, I'm going to make a Protestant argument, or I'm going to make a Catholic argument, and then tell the Protestant that. The Protestant is just going to be like, nah, man, I'm not for that. I'm a Protestant. Yes, Catholics are Christian, but they're not.
They're not. They're not.
Yeah, a lot of people would say Catholics aren't Christians. And Calvinists are definitely the worst.
According to the God they claim to pray to, he appeared to them and said, "No time to talk, Allah." They're not.
So, like the Crusades, like sometimes Crusades are forced upon Protestants, and Protestants say, well, I don't have anything to do with that. That's a Catholic war. It had nothing to do with me. So I think that's the same thing. It's the same kind of point. So going to AP's performance throughout the debate, I think it was really good. I think he did a really good job throughout the debate. I think that beginning, we didn't need it. We should have just go in, talk about what the points are about this particular conflict. I think it's just kind of bad blood that's between them. And he kind of wanted to, that can kind of happen. Like I think of the second President Bush. He had bad blood with Saddam Hussein. That's a part of why we had the Iraq War. It wasn't just 9/11. It had to do with that bad blood, and that can sometimes come up. You can say, well, I have this bad blood with someone, so it's going to be hashed out in in the arena that pops up. So, but overall, I think he made good arguments. I think I think one thing that I really liked was the point on just that you're not an expert on Talmud, and Daniel is acting like he is an expert on the Talmud, and he's not. And I think we'll go into that later on, but I think that that's a huge problem for Daniel's case, is that he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to critique the Talmud, but he's very defensive when people, attack the hadith. And I'm like, which way do you want it, Dan? You can't have both of it. So that's a big problem that I think arose. And I think AP was good on pushing that forward. He said, you're not an expert on this, so don't talk like you are, and he couldn't even pronounce most of the Hebrew words, which was just, we'll get into that later, but I was like, it was just terrible.
There are many people that claim they're speaking for God, and they're really a head in a pit missing half their brains.
Well, I don't think Daniel or AP was claiming they were speaking for God in the debate tonight. They weren't, but I think they were trying to quote some Talmud text stuff just to make So, and we'll talk about that later, but are you familiar with the hadiths and stuff when it comes to Islam, Wesley, and this particular hadith where they're
no, and it would be best that I don't comment about it. I don't know anything about that whatsoever.
Well, maybe you can comment on the next part of the conversation where we're going to talk about some Are you familiar with the Talmud at all? The rabbis' conversations and what that means and at all, or
I attend synagogue. My name is written in Leviticus, but let me hear what you have to say. That would be more important to me.
Okay, so I'll just turn it over to Tyler next to get his take on what he thought about AP's performance, and if he thought he was poisoning the well. I think we talked about it a little bit early on, but we're restarting the show, and I want to cover Mary, but I can hear.
I don't actually have much to say on this subject that Issa hadn't already said. I mean, that was a really good summary about how, like, the poisoning of the well was it seemed out of place, but not for the two of them because they've had a lot of exchanges and there's a lot of bad blood there. But Issa mentioned that, and then there's also the whole. I mean, if you want to go one for one with the Torah to the Quran, and then call the Talmud and the Hadith supplementary texts, and kind of have one side reject the other but embrace the, like, and again, there's different sects. I've known Jewish people that they'll say, well, no, these people over here are Hebrews because they accept the Talmud. We only work from the Torah, and then there's like the Zionist Jews and things like that. So there are different sects of Judaism and Hebrewism in general. And again, like Issa did a very good job of summarizing that. So I don't know if I could really add to what he said. I'll just throw my card in with his lot there and say I agree with that, and that's
Okay.
my bit.
Good. We'll move on to the next topic, which is. Oh wait, did I do this wrong? Okay, there. I have it backwards. That's okay. What do you all think about Daniel's performance, his opening, his argumentation style? And we'll start with you, Dr. J.
I think he does a nice job as far as like he comes prepared, right? He didn't have nothing or anything like that, so I do think he does come and he brings some preparation and research. I think he has a really hard position to defend sometimes, especially depending on the topic. But he prepares and he has his arguments, and whether I think those are good or not, that might be a different discussion. But I do think he does does prepare.
Yeah, I agree. I actually went to his website and checked it out. It was one of my super chat questions. There was somebody commented on there that like some problematic stuff. Like, anyways, that's another topic. But yeah, I think he was prepared. Do you think he was able to tie his claim that the Jewish religion itself was the cause of the war to the war going on now?
I mean, I think the only way he can do it is just say, I think their actions demonstrate this. I'm going to read this religious stuff, and then I'm going to try to say their actions connect to it. And that's the only thing he had. I don't think he had a way to like find government documents or anything that was tying it to the religious stuff. At least I didn't find any of it that convincing. He just had to try to say, well, the religious text says this, and they're doing these things. Therefore, the religious text is driving it. I wasn't super convinced by that, but I thought that's what he was trying to do.
Okay. What about you, Issa? What's your take on Daniel's performance?
I think it was pretty bad. I think he's charismatic and he's charming in a sense, in his way. let me put it that way. He faces a lot of problems because, and I think Christian apologists are very good at this, and they're right to make this critique. Islam is dependent on Judaism and Christianity, and if you throw them out, you throw Islam out. So it throws his entire thing out. And I hate this when I see Muslim apologists like say the Bible is false, the New Testament's false. You have to figure out another route to engage this, because if you challenge these texts, you throw Islam away. And I'm like, dude, you're throwing Islam away. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You already lose. So he keeps saying, oh, well, the Talmud is bad. the Torah is bad. I'm like, but stuff in the Quran is right from the Talmud. You can look at the Talmud and see it in the Quran. And I'm like, you're also quote mining. You're quote mining the Talmud. It's extremely disingenuous, and it's a terrible. And I hate seeing this in apologetics when people quote mine texts and they're like, I'm going to show you this text and I'm going to show you this really horrible thing, and I'm not going to give you any context and say how bad it is. But hey, don't do that to my text. You know, when I have the Quran and the ahadith, you know, he said that to AP. He's like, you gave a horrible version of the ahadith of this hadith. I said, well, you did the same thing with the Talmud. You're a hypocrite, dude. You're a charlatan and a hypocrite. Like, that's what I felt when I heard this. I'm like, you can't attack these other texts without your own text being attacked and being put out of context. And he does that himself. I felt a lot of it was very incendiary. He kept saying, look at the rabbi. And I felt that AP held him to task and said, hey, man, look, what is the context of this? You need to look at the context. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to look at this thing and say, I'm going to give you the worst explanation on it possible, and thus I win. Because that happens to you in your position as well. And you're like a person throwing rocks from a glass house. So I felt that really damaged his entire position, is that his line of reasoning and his line of attack puts him in the same range of danger. Every single critique he lodged out, that critique could be thrown right back at him. So I think that really destroyed his argument.
Yeah. Really quick, is it Talmud doctrinal, like, or is it? Can you describe what the Talmud is really
sure.
quick for us?
The Talmud it's like a jurisprudential text. It's very much like what you see in the fiqh of Islam, the jurisprudence. So basically, when we look at the Talmud, we see a bunch of scholars engaging with each other. So like, if you look at the Talmud, you'll see all of these different rabbis who are engaging with the text. So it's like an exegetical text. It helps us understand what the biblical text is saying. So you have all of these sages who are engaging this from different eras. So it's a long, long period of people talking and saying, hey, this is my idea on this thing. Hey, this is my idea. And it goes in this kind of, like circular.
Did they always agree from era to era?
No, they have tons of disagreements.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're always disagreeing, and they're saying, well, this is my idea on the what is going on here for my kind of expertise. Hey, this is my expertise. So that's what it is. It's so huge. The Talmud is volumes and volumes of stuff. And that's the thing. That's the dishonest thing that Daniel Hakakichu is doing, is he doesn't know what the Talmud is. He's assuming the Talmud is just like this book that you pick up and you read it.
2,700 pages.
Yeah, and it's covering so many different topics. And it's also like, okay, there might be some negative stuff, so we have to contextually look at that. So Jews have lived in very hostile environments. What do you think happens when someone lives in a hostile environment? Are they going to be very sweet and kind to the people around them who are kind of, let's say, abusing them? Or are they going to be hostile to them too? It's human, right? So you might see that. We have to make it human. But instead people are like, look how evil this is. I'm like, yeah, it's a response to being in a hostile environment where people are lording over you and controlling your life. So I think we have to look at that context.
If I may say, there was 2 nights specifically when in my life I've not been only enlightened by God, Yeshua. I've been attacked by the devil. And when the devil attacks, it's very obvious that it is the devil. And here's what the devil did. And I'm hoping this will help you and explain to you how the Quran was written. On 2 dates, in October of 2005 and in March of 2020, Jesus removed my hedge, which holds up my soul, and I was unable to move in bed. And Satan pulled a fire down and caused that fire to say, I will turn and toss you violently like a ball. And the second time, Satan said, don't tell the vision. The second time, Satan didn't get into me. I'm just aware of it by being anointed.
Well,
the way that Satan did that, really quick, the way that Satan did that is the way Satan attacked Muhammad and gave Muhammad the words of the Quran. Is how Satan gave Smith the words of the Book of Mormon and the Gita and the Buddha text. And is how Satan got men to pervert the King James Version into the New King James Version and the NIV. That is how those books were created.
Okay,
that's how they were changed or written by Satan. He got into men, spoke in their heads like, I will turn and toss you violently like a ball, and they thought it was God.
Okay, well, let's just, for the sake of the argument, we'll just presume that Satan inspired the Quran. I don't agree, but that's regardless, because right now we're talking about the Talmud, which is, as far as I understood, is a Jewish narrative that Daniel Hikikachu brought up. It's a Jewish narrative about the Jewish faith between rabbi scholars. I was trying to use the long word. Can't spit it out because I can't speak all the time. So do you think it's fair to hold like the concept of like, so if you look at like the Old Testament and the Torah, there's arguments where God said to go wipe all these, like the Malachi out, I believe. Is that correct, Dr. J? Was Malachi was one of the groups?
Okay. There were lots of them to kill. Let me tell you.
Let's just talk about the Malachi. So Daniel Hikikachu, who is a Muslim, was trying to tie that claim in and argue that that was the motivation, justification for the state of Israel to attack Hamas, and it wasn't because Hamas attacked Israel. So, like, if we get your take on that, do you think the Torah or the Talmud gives justification to start the war? Or do you think, I think you said you believe Hamas started the war, but if you want to comment on that, I'd appreciate it. Did you understand, Wesley? Or
I would like to hear that again. I'm not clear as to what you're asking.
So you have the Talmud. You're familiar with the Talmud? It's a bunch of writing, Jewish writings about.
Yes, it's something similar to would be Strong's Concordance.
Yeah. So he is quote mining the Talmud, to support his claim that Israel used their religious beliefs to justify attacking Hamas.
Yeah. You know, the Talmud and Strong's Concordance are a black shoe of reason, a very fashionable thing on a foot that's going to get cut off. Look, Hamas started this war with Israel this time, and it's just, and it was very wrong what Hamas did.
Yeah, I think even most people on both sides, I don't think Daniel Hikikachu was
it isn't the Bible. It isn't the Old Testament. It isn't, you know, the books that Moses were given to write that started these wars. It's people not reading them and not being able to discern what is in them that is starting these wars. Well, it's not the Bible. It's not reading it that's causing these things to happen. There's part of the weakness that gets people to create war.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not reading it.
I tend to agree. Well, I don't know if it's. I don't think you need to read or not read a biblical text to start a war. But so isn't there stuff even within the Torah that you could use to justify that land? I think you said that in your opening, that land in the Middle East is ordained by God to be the Jewish land. So couldn't you say that there is justification from the Torah for the state of Israel to get rid of all the Palestinians from the region, or not, either side? Do you think you can use the Torah to justify Israel taking over that entire region, what it says is their promised land?
I used to love the story of Samson, how he was afflicted with an ague and gave away his secret of his hair where his strength lay. and got his hair cut, lost his strength, and was put into a jail and blinded with hot searing rods, and was in the pain he must have been in, having his eyes poked out, and he was really pissed, and he got his hair back, and he got his strength back, and he crashed the party and killed everybody in that party, killed all those enemies. I love that story, and I've often made the mistake of using that to justify my own anger. That was for his time. That was about that day. That was about then. And it did happen. I'm not Samson. It's wrong of me to use that as an excuse to create a fist fight. To say, you're cutting my hair, you're poking my eyes out. Well, they're not. It's wrong of me to use these times when Jesus commanded, said, Israel, you're going to win this part of the war, or this part you're going to be overtaken, and or go out and kill this tribe and take none of their things, But that was for that time, and it did happen. But that is not to be used as an excuse, or to imagine to use it as an excuse to create a war today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful answer.
That's the way I put it.
I love your answer, even though it touched on the Torah, it touched on how it should be interpreted modernly, how you may have made mistakes in the past of your own interpretation, and how you're wiser today and you understand that some of this stuff was based upon the times, and that we should look at what it is today and how we approach things today, maybe referencing some of your ethical framework you learn from your religious beliefs or not. But so I love that answer, Wesley, but I want to move it on to Tyler so he can answer the question. And we're going to have several of these questions and we'll go around the panel. So thank you so much, Wesley. So Tyler, what did you think about Daniel's performance?
It was pretty standard for what Daniel shows. I mean, at one point he said to AP, well, when I was quoting all these things, you were nodding along, and so you agree with me. And I just can't help but think that that little section is going to end up on his website and on his channel, and he's going to be saying, look at me, I demolished AP because when I said all this stuff, AP was nodding along with everything that I said, so he agrees with me. And it could have just been that someone just off camera was talking to AP and he was nodding to that. So it really is just more of the same from Daniel. He's very dishonest. He's very manipulative. He preaches to his own choir. He knows how to get those little sound bites and those little clips to make him look like the victor. And it was just more of the same from him, from what we've all seen before out of him. And that's my 2 cents on his performance.
Yeah, like me agreeing with Wesley right now is like I'm just accepting like his interpretation of it. I'm not agreeing with like the premises behind it. So sometimes I'll nod my head because I'm saying I hear you. It doesn't necessarily mean I agree with you. It's like I'm listening, I hear you, I'm engaged, not saying, oh yeah.
Anyway. He's a diplomat for France.
Yeah. Who, me?
Yeah.
No, anyways, sometimes I'm trying to moderate the stage. I'll let people know my own views. Be sure of that. Like I have my own views. But let's go to Robin next. What did you think of Daniel's performance tonight?
I thought Daniel did actually better than usual. I don't think he went to as many conspiracies as he often does. He went to a few, but like Dr. J said, Daniel has a very hard position to defend sometimes. And I feel like that the continuous attacks on him, on other, are kind of out of place on this debate. So I kind of feel like that probably puts him in sort of a defensive mode anyway, anytime he comes in to the debate and has those other attacks on those other subjects. But I do think that he's wrong. But like I said, he's trying to spin it for his side. What I did like though is when someone asked him, when they read off the poll, they asked who was to blame, and AP said both, and that took Daniel by surprise. I noticed that he was, when AP said that Daniel was like, I mean, it was like he couldn't believe that AP admitted that, and so I kind of felt like that was something that was kind of common ground a little bit there. He said, "Did you say both?" And I guess he was thinking that AP was totally blaming Islam, and I don't feel like that anybody can really blame either side completely and leave the other side out of any at all of it.
Yeah.
So I thought Daniel did better than normal. I mean, he didn't come off with as many crazy theories about pod people and stuff.
And for people who are joining us after the debate, we had like an hour and 20-minute discussion before it, and we went over some of that nuance. I think we were sort of agreeing. I think overall we sort of agreed that like AP did a better job tying the two claims together. But we also acknowledged the fact that they're occupied territories. There were laws for thee, not for me. Like Israel could have started this whole thing like in the 50s much differently than is today. But that's in the past. But you can't just whitewash the past that's happened over the last 70 years and pretend like it didn't happen. And there isn't some causal linkage to today. And to say it's all the fault of religion, you can't like pin it all on religion either. Like the Palestinians who are joining Hamas, religion might be part of the reason for the joining Hamas, but it's also the promise of food, shelter, and water, and power, and medical care, and all these other stuff. There's money that comes in from Iran, and there's donations that go to Hamas to help it survive. I don't think it would have survived as long as it had if it wasn't for all these outside donations. So there's lots of incentive for people to join as Hamas. There's lots of incentives for people to fight these wars. It's not just all about religion or being against a religion. And I think hopefully most of us agree with that. And I think that's what we talked about. People want to start this conversation from the beginning. They'll see that, but I'll put a chapter on this so you can see this is all pre-show. This is all discussion after the fact. I got bored personally of listening to the super chats, but I want to move on to the next topic. I'm not sure if Wesley's still there, but he didn't watch the debate, so I'll move to Isa. Isa, who do you think won the debate tonight?
I think easily it was AP. I think it was AP. AP stuck more to the points. I feel that he was far more nuanced. He came off more reasonable. And I think that that's the important point. What is your believability? What is your level of nuance? How do you find your the debater more believable and trustworthy? And I found AP to be far more trustworthy on the issues. I found that Daniel used a lot of hypocrisy tactics. He was very hypocritical in a lot of his arguments, where he's like, exactly what he said. For thee, you have a different kind of situation than me. So I can hold you to a different standard than I hold myself to. My religion gets immunity, but your religion doesn't, or the religion that's being brought up doesn't. And I'm like, that makes you lose a lot of trustability points, And I think that really hurt his argument. I do think, again, the point I will concede on, I will agree to the point on, did AP poison the well with the, the young marriage stuff? I definitely think that was problematic, but I also think it was a bad blood situation too. So I think that's important to acknowledge. But I definitely feel that overall, AP kept his cool. I think the only thing that I think Daniel did, his only real argument in the space, was that he's like, well, hey, there's all these bad things in the Talmud. Thus, this is how Jewish people behave. He didn't look at the nuances of what Jewish people are. And I'm like, dude, you know, the same argument can be used against Muslim people. I'm like, do you not realize that every single argument you used against Judaism can be used against yourself? It's so bad. I'm like, this is what a lot of people think about Muslims.
Can you explain
Sure.
why that is?
Well, sure. We could say, hey, let's look at the hadith. David Wood made a whole thing called Islamicize Me, where they lived as Muslims for 30 days and did horrible things to lots of people using the hadith. What do you think about that? Like, it's there. You can look at that position. I'm saying if you want to say the Talmud does it, you can quote mine. I mean, there's 30,000 hadith. You can quote mine the hadith and find the same problems. This is the problem. You become liable to the same attacks. So we can see that through David Wood's Islamicize Me, that same exact particular critique. Most people here in like America and the UK and France critique Muslim people all the time and say, hey, look at the Quran, look at all these horrible things that are particularly not as mostly in the Quran, but mostly in the Hadith. Look at the Ahadith, which is very similar to the Talmud. You know, it fits as a kind of a secondary source with Mishnah and Gemara and all of this, you know, in these kind of texts. Hey, I'm going to look at all these texts and show you the most horrendous, most horrible things. Gosh, man, Muslims are these evil barbarians. Let's not listen to anything they have to say because they're all just bad. Look at how terrible their texts are. I'm like, Daniel, you do realize you become open to that argument. You cannot then say, hey, AP, you brutalized the hadith. You have no right to do that because you literally did that to the Talmud. You literally did the same thing that you are critiquing AP doing. You come off as a grifter and a hypocrite.
Yeah, I just wanted, before we move to Robin next, I just want to point out, like, Zed Alpha made a comment, like, they don't think anybody changed their mind. But this debate, I think, was very technical. And just on the technical aspect of it, like, AP made a tenuous connection. I don't think Daniel did. Like my belief in who caused the war is within a historical context, I think. Like the specific engagement conflict we're in now, I think Hamas started it, but that would be a different argument. Like, but this was a religious debate. And then I think these are good points. Like Daniel brought up the IDF soldiers laughing about war crimes, but that was in connection to a specific event, not this one. And there was no connection to religion. And that's a good point. That
do you mind if I add one thing to that too?
Yeah.
Just, it's important. The point that he brought up about that, this is another hypocrisy from Dan, is that he made the point that that the TikTok videos prove his case that the IDF as a military organization support the genocide of Palestinians. That was his argument. He's saying TikTok videos validate that. Well, AP brings up and says, well, look at the videos on Hamas that show the barbarity. Oh, we can't prove that Hamas did that. Which way is it, Dan? Which way do you want to have it? Every way that we look at how Daniel was arguing with his evidence, he comes off as a hypocrite. He does not hold the same standard to himself. And that's the point. We don't know about, he will not give the fair, reasoned approach of looking at the other side he will gift everything to his own side. And I'm like, it just comes off as disingenuous.
All right. Thank you, Issa.
Oh, what was that post? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Damn, bro, going off. Or Issa. I love listening to him. I don't believe in any religion, but find Issa a very compelling and eloquent speaker. I think, I won't pronounce how that sounds. Anyways, Wesley, since you didn't watch the debate, I mean, I'll give you a minute if you want to speak to the topic, and then we'll move on.
I won't speak about that unless I know what I'm talking about. Thanks.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm far too double-minded and double-hearted and double-tongued already. No sense in me adding, salt to injury.
All right, thank you, Wesley. So, Robin, what's your take? Who do you thought won that debate and why?
I give the win to AP. I think AP, like Issa said, he come across more credible. He did catch Daniel in some deceptive matters with some of his videos and his narratives. I've kind of watched AP for the last several years, and I'm kind of familiar with him, and I don't think that he tries to be deceptive. I think that what he is trying to show, as far as the narrative on what is going on, what happened, I believe he's being honest with what he thinks he's presenting, and I feel like that Daniel was trying to just manipulate whatever he could use to make the Jewish side look bad and his side look good. So I think the most important thing though is really to look at the nations now. Leave those books out of it. What are they like now? I mean, Israel has human rights, and Esau, I love you, but you're kind of an off brand of Muslim that from what we normally incur.
If I may say, were I to comment, it would be like my comment cut off a foot. And then I would say, oh, but I'm religious. I didn't do anything wrong. I would be like those two little creatures in the vision. My comments would wound. So I'd be double-minded and double-hearted and double-tongued. And I failed you by being that way. And I failed Jesus in that way. So that's why it would be best if I don't comment. If I speak, it'll be about something that concerns all flesh and not just a fashion thing.
Thank you, Wesley. And with that, we'll turn it over to Tyler to get his views on who he thought won that debate and his why.
Thinking back to how it all went down, I feel like AP was he was valid when he discussed the exact wording of who started, what the debate would be about. I didn't like his poisoning the waters, but when we think about how the debate was worded and we think about what Daniel presented about how he claimed that it was an Israeli helicopter that was shooting up the music festival there, it almost seems like Daniel kind of went into this with the intention of creating this idea that the whole thing was a false flag attack in order to start like a new war kind of a thing. And so I feel with that in mind, it's important to keep in mind what the exact wording of the debate was and how like we're kind of all over the grid. Are we discussing who started this most recent conflict, like just in October, or are we discussing the conflict going all the way back to post World War II when Israel was kind of formulated, or are we discussing going all the way back to when Muhammad himself tried to learn how to read the Torah and he couldn't do it, and then he kind of went his own way, and it seems like he started his own religion. And I feel like if we zero in on each of those points as per like an interpretation of the wording for that debate, I still feel AP won. He was a bit more as Robin said, he was a bit more honest, far more honest, and he was right to the point. He rebuked everything that Daniel came up with, and I don't think that anything that Daniel came up with that anyone other than his core audience that was going into it agreeing with him. I don't think he swayed anybody. It's a tough thing to say, like who won a debate, because I feel like there are a lot of people that go in just cheering for their team, and the winner of the debate is who turned the most people who were on the fence, like the undecided crowd, to their side. And I feel like tonight AB or AP was the winner, because anybody who may have thought that it was a false flag, with the presented evidence as flimsy as it was, and for anybody who thought that it was Israel that was at fault purely, I feel like AP would have brought more people to his side of things. So I feel like AP won.
Yeah, the audience seemed to agree. There was 5,500 votes around there, and like half of them said it was Islam. But that, like, if people believe, it'd be nice to get a before and after poll of the same people, and we don't get that with these debates. So this isn't really scientific, but most people believe that Islam is at fault. But I think it's more nuanced than that personally. But
in the debates that I've participated in, just in my hometown, we've always had a debate before and a debate after. And one of the questions that are asked during the after poll is, did you change your stance? And so, for the people who voted, yes and then yes, but they never changed their stance, you can almost cut those votes aside and just go with the votes that people did change their stance and say who was convinced as a matter of the dialogue exchange. And that's how we determine the winner.
Right. And I did like it how he was sort of refuting his claims in real time, pulling out the news articles and stuff. They didn't say what Daniel was claiming they said. Like, anyways, and I think that's the next topic. Well,
do you mind if I say one quick thing on that too?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel that Daniel, what AP really did was he caught Daniel in multiple things. Where, for example, he brought up the Joe Biden situation, and he said, well, Biden said this thing. And then AP said, did he say it? Well, let's look at the sources. No, he didn't say what you're claiming he said. You gave a very reductionist and a biased view of what you wanted the President Biden to say. He didn't say what you said he said. And he did that several times. And it really made Daniel so not believable. And it really hurt Daniel's case.
Yeah, one of the claims he brought up was about the Hannibal Protocol, which is sort of, I think that's the Jewish stance. I'm going to mute you really quick, Wesley. I hear typing, so it's distracted me. But you can unmute yourself when you want to speak. But if you can mute yourself while you're typing, that'd be good. But it's the Hannibal Protocol, which is, I think, where Israel says we're going to do whatever it takes to recover people who have been captured by terrorists and stuff like that. And so, but the Hannibal Protocol was enacted after the attack, where Daniel, I think, was dishonestly trying to claim that the Hannibal Protocol was what caused the 1,200 people to die at the festival. When why would you enact that protocol before the attack? Like, that makes no sense, Daniel. And then AP forces them to bring it up the article to discuss what actually happened and when that was enacted. And it was about when they were crossing the border to prevent them from getting into the Gaza Strip. That's why the Hannibal Protocol was enacted. So I'm not sure, Wesley, are you familiar with the Israel stance about captives and terrorism, their Hannibal Protocol?
Well, Israel to me is 144,000 young Jewish children scattered worldwide that do not use TV. That's Israel to me at this time.
Okay.
So those children I'm going to gather. The other Israel is man's devices, and I'm not going to be able to change that.
Okay, so the 12,000 people of each of the tribes.
They're all young children with no guile in their mouth. They are Israel. They are the government of Israel, according to Scripture. They're the real government. And if anyone tries to harm them, they fall before they strike.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wesley. Yeah, go ahead, Robin. What do you have to say about Hannibal Protocol?
Well, I was just going to say that, a lot of what we saw coming out of this, was on like phone cams that were the people that were being attacked. Because I remember the first, some of the people that were at the festival, they actually filmed this, and the stories directly from them, and even the Hamas soldiers who had their own cams. And there was even one soldier that called his mother and said, "I've just killed all these Jews," and he was on the dead woman's phone. And there's just so much stuff that that Daniel tries to pretend like doesn't exist. I mean, I understand there's probably is some propaganda that has been falsified. I understand that on both sides, but there's some that we just know, we saw, and he cannot just push it away, wave it away. I don't think.
Yeah. What about you, Issa? Do you think Hannibal Protocol is a good protocol, and do you support it? Do you think Daniel was representing it correctly?
No, that's pretty much where I'm gonna stand on a lot of things about him. I think he misrepresented pretty much everything. Like, even when he talked about the Israeli generals saying, "Let's go assault," I found that to be so sickening when he did that, because, again, it's like it's the pot calling the kettle black. I'm like, you cannot do that. You can't accuse Judaism of all these things, because also you're throwing your own prophets down the drain. You're throwing your prophets under the bus. You're throwing all your because most of the holy folks of Islam are Hebrews. They're Israelites. So you cannot throw them under the bus. And
Well, Hannibal Protocol in particular is about, like, they're going to try to recover the captives at any cost. Like, even if it means
sure.
that some of the captives are going to die while you're
Sure.
killing the people that took them.
Sorry, I'm sorry I didn't engage the direct question.
That's
I apologize.
okay.
Maybe I'm a little like AP too. There's a little bit of drama that's going on, you know. But to engage that, we have to look at nation states. This is a nation state situation. This is what America would do. This is what most countries do. Is Israel unique in doing this type of thing? Not really. And I think this is where the anti-Semitism comes in, where you hold Israel to the standard that you hold no other nation state to.
No, I don't think the U.S. has the same policy when it comes to terrorists and captives. I think we try to negotiate first.
No,
Israel says they don't.
I mean, if you look at Iraq, you can see that a lot of terrible stuff went down, whether it's the official policy or not.
Well, that's wartime versus like, how do we deal with?
Well,
like,
I mean, this is
police action. Like,
this is a war. But isn't this Hannibal action in relationship to the 10-7? Isn't that right?
Well, it was a result of 10-7, but they use it like if an airplane is captured by terrorists, they just go in and take the plane back. They don't care if any captives get killed, because their policy is never negotiate with terrorists. So you scare the living shit out of the terrorists. Where the U.S. will send a negotiator in. So not all nation states have the same policy when it comes. So that noise you guys hear is my thing saying people send a super chat in. Thank you guys.
What I'm saying, first and foremost, I think that this is like an extreme way of looking at this particular policy, but I think we have to understand that is how they operate. You could say, hey, yes, ideally speaking, you would hope that this does not occur, but it does occur. You know, if you're not negotiating with who's being called a terrorist, there's going to be a thing called collateral damage, right? That was brought up. And that happens. And I think AP was fair to say this. He said, well, Islam has collateral damage too. What do you feel about that? And he was not really fair. And it's good to bring it up just so we can get the whole engagement.
I can read it really quick. The Hannibal Directive.
Sure, and I'll respond to it afterwards.
It's the name of the I think it's controversial, procedure that was used by the IDF until 2016 to prevent the capture of Israeli soldiers by enemy forces. So it says that the kidnapping must be stopped by all means, even at the price of striking and harming our own forces. But they also take a similar policy when it comes to kidnapping in general, terrorist kidnapping of hijacking of planes, stuff like that. Like, Israel's famous for giving no grounds at all. So the idea is no one's going to bother to kidnap our people, hijack our planes, because if they do, they're going to face their full force and might. They're going to die anyways. So no matter what they do, they're going to die.
I have a question. Is this Israel, or is this a right-wing movement, a political party that is pushing this initiative? That's important to deconstruct too, because in the United States, we have many different kinds of political ideologies. You have some people here who say abortion should be legal, easy, and accessible. And then you have other politicians who say, no, you should be thrown in jail and there should be a punitive measure. So the problem is, I think we're also homogenizing all of Israel like this. We're making it monolithic instead of polyolithic. Is this an initiative of, let's say, very conservative folks in Israel? Or is this Israel, like, I don't think Yitzhak Rabin would ever argue for something like this, but I mean, he's a lot earlier, you know,
well,
he's more of a leftist, but
there's game theory involved in that too. But maybe I'll give Robin a chance to respond. I do have
I was just going to say that maybe a whole lot of what this thing for is what we seen on October 7th and since is the treatment of the captives. I mean, we know that women. I mean, I've seen some horrible, things and stories and videos that were done to these women, while they were captive, that most of them, didn't live through. And so, maybe is a common thing that it's better to die than to be a captive at the hand of people like Hamas, if you are Jewish, because of the way they treated the captives. And I'm not so sure that I wouldn't rather them come and make sure that I don't have to go through that.
I think that's fair. Like, but usually after the fact, people do choose to live. Like, people do go through very traumatic things. I don't want to talk about specific details because
I know I wasn't trying to do it either. I was trying to stay not.
So people, like, after the fact, like, people will self-harm after traumatic things. Some people get counseling, some people find other ways to cope, but I think the majority of people that do get into that stuff do want to survive. Like, so I don't think they want to die. Like, I think people value their life more in general than they do, like, the sanctity of their own body or something like that. But
I mean, I think a lot of these people though didn't make it. I mean, but they suffered.
They suffered and died anyway.
They suffered, yes, before they died. They suffered immense.
Yeah, that would be worse.
And so, like I said, I mean, some lived through it, but there's a lot of them that didn't, and they suffered a lot before. Some of them did before they did die. And I guess, like I said, I think that if I thought that was a possibility, that I would rather that my government just stop it before it happened.
Yeah, I get that.
That's just me.
But go ahead.
I'm a female from a different side of it than men. So
I do want to discuss about the psychology of the kidnapper though too, but I want to give Wesley a chance. He had his hand up. Go ahead, Wesley. Okay.
I was going to ask Jesus to put a taste of honey in your mouth in this minute, just to.
I have a nice soda right here, so I'll taste the sweetness right now. There we go.
A honey break.
Thank you for the reminder. Like, chill. Like, these can be hard topics to contemplate. So let's put our hand. Like, think about the kidnapper. If they know that they're going to die, they're more apt to kill their captive and try to get away than to release their captive that can act as a witness. So a lot of people who capture planes aren't necessarily there to kill the people on the plane. They're trying to use those people as leverage to get their way. So sometimes negotiators will try to negotiate to capture the person after the fact. Okay, I guess we're set to invade Ember's stream after this, so people can go to Ember after the stream. But I have a couple more points to point out. So I think that's why there's a lot of, it's considered controversial, and it's not necessarily a right-wing thing unless you considered Israel to be right-wing. It's been their stance. I think there was a 1970s hijacking. Maybe Robin remembers. But they've held this position for a long time that they do not negotiate with terrorists. It's sort of like
that you're talking about. Yeah, I can't remember the exact year, but I remember the hijacking. Yes.
Yeah.
But there's also other policies where they'll say we'll exchange. Many folks will do great deals to get our folks back. So it's more nuanced. I think there's a more nuanced approach of looking at this, and I think it's, to me, I think it's mostly the more right-wing elements in each faction that are the problems. I don't really think it's like, I think it's funny that people are trying to say, well, it's Judaism that does this, but there's so many positive elements you can find in Judaism about human life that focus on human life. You can do the same thing with Islam. You can find the things that you're looking for to promote that type of narrative. And I think that the issue that I see is that when you're like quote mining stuff and cherry picking it and saying, hey, I want to make this thing look like a horrible, awful thing, you can do it. And to look at the person's mind, let's say the kidnapper. I've talked to a lot of people who support folks like Hamas. I've had conversations with this, which is hard for me because I unilaterally do not support Hamas. I actually want to debate how I think Hamas is extremely problematic and is very bad. That's my position. I don't think Hamas is good at all. And I hear people, crap on the Palestinian Authority. I'm not saying the Palestinian Authority is perfect. It has its own problems. And they say Mahmoud Abbas is this terrible, horrible person. And I'm like, excuse me, Mahmoud Abbas is looking out to support his community. Well, who is the better leader, Hamas or Mahmoud Abbas? Yeah. Let's see the net result. Hamas net result, many Palestinians are dead. How many Palestinians are dead? That blood is on Hamas's hands. They cannot say, oh, we're innocent because we're fighting for our freedom. No, you made a choice. You made a decision to go out here and do this thing. People, and then you first of all destroyed many chances of having peace talks, and you destroyed all of this, and you're saying I'm fighting for freedom. Well, I see rubble, I see death, I see blood, sinew, I see gore, and it is your fault, Hamas, too. You are culpable in this situation. You do not escape it.
Islam doesn't pray to God. Their God is money. And their God is
we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Wesley.
All right. But that money is going to be the cause of the war.
Okay,
why did it happen?
East is a Muslim.
Money.
Okay.
Let's let Issa finish talking. But I did post a link by Task and Purpose, who did a video called "The Entire History of Hamas." It starts with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and how the Gaza Strip happened, and I think it's a very good historical lesson and I think it's very unbiased. They're not like giving blame to either side in this video. It's not very long. I think it's 20 minutes long. So if you really want to understand the history, I recommend spending 20 minutes to understand the history of Hamas. But yeah, Issa, if you want to finish up, if you had something else to say, go ahead.
There was a little bit more that I wanted to share. I think what Hamas did in this situation did not look for the rights of the people. That's the point. Are you fighting to support your people? Are you getting your people resources? Are you doing what's in the best interest of your people? If you are not, you are a bad leadership. You're a bad leadership and you've done wrong. And I'm not saying, and I think that the Israeli government, as we've discussed, there's problems. There's problems with the American government. There are problems with many governments. I think we need to look for solutions. We need to hold accountability where there needs to be accountability. Like with that Hannibal situation, I can understand why that might happen. For me, I'm what you would call probably a leftist, and I would say, no, I promote life, and I would want to do whatever it is to save the life of any person. That's what I care about. That's where I stand.
Would you please say, I saw a foot cut off in a dream from Yeshua? It means one will do. Please, just say those words. Let that Jewish light in your soul become strong so that you'll have light coming out of your finger and light coming out of your tongue. So that when you say for someone that's coming against you to fall, they will fall. And you don't have to break any of the 10 Commandments. Just say, yeah, I saw a foot cut off. It means one will do in a dream from Yeshua. Please.
Well, I'll make sure I give Issa this timestamp. But when Issa, did you have anything else to say? If not, I want to move it to Tyler. Then I want to talk about one more topic before we end the show today.
I'm so sorry, Tyler. I apologize. I know you didn't get to say a lot, and I apologize for that. I want to say a quick thing about this. I think That is my issue personally. Is I think Hamas is extremely problematic. I think it's it's hard for me when I hear people support Hamas and say, yes, they're so small, they really are not culpable, and I'm like, but they are. We need to look at for accountability. I think that's the most. Let's try to be balanced, nuanced, and look for accountability in any situation. I think that's super important.
Thank you.
And we need to be, to do that. Human rights.
Robin already spoke on it. I think we are going to Tyler next. What do you have to say about the Hannibal Protocol? This is particularly military action, but maybe also about their all. What's that?
I was looking into it, and then it kind of popped up on the screen, and I was reading about it. It really does just seem every bit as dark as what Robin spoke to. How there's a mentality that a person would be. There's an old phrase, some things are worse than death, and I guess the Hannibal Protocol is just to not let their particular forces have to endure what they're certain that they will endure. I also know that the mechanisms and the methods of let's call it information extraction can be pretty effective, and it just seems that the position that Israel has taken is that if their assets, let's call them, have information, that they don't want that information being extracted through those means, not just as a mercy to their assets, but also as a protection to their military complex as a whole. And I think that as dark as that is, and I tried not to let it be too horrible, but as dark as it is, I think that that's the position that Israel has taken via their Hannibal Protocol, and I'm certain that all of their assets are very aware of it, and they might have even signed a waiver when they joined the reserves or also the military. It's a very dark place, and for Robin to say that she has a unique position as a woman, I can appreciate that fear, but I feel that there's also deplorable things that can happen to men as well, as far as information extraction is concerned, and that may be what the Hannibal Protocol is designed to prevent. Um, it's a terrible thing what war does to people on both sides, and I can't help but think that that's precisely what the intention there is.
I want to live. I prefer life. I don't know if we want to go into this topic. I really do. I think it's related in some ways too, because, and it was brought up momentarily. Wrong direction. Dang it. And that is concubines or sex slaves. Islam has a problem.
Oh, that's one of the moments on that debate. Wow. I'll wait my turn. I'm sorry.
No.
I had shrimp for dinner, but you look good in men's clothes.
Thank
you. I think this is just Yahweh Allah's problem. Period.
Yeah, like so.
All the Abrahamic religions have trouble here.
Yeah, this is Old Testament. This is Torah too, where you can capture women and enslave them to be your concubines. They want to call it concubines. There's no such thing. They'll claim well, you have to treat your slaves nice, and when you free them and they choose to become your concubine or marry you, then it's consensual. Ever heard of Stockholm Syndrome? We understand about consent now. You can't hold a person captive for years and then say they consented to stay with you after that.
Is Stockholm Syndrome like the who was that rich heiress that was captured by a group back in the 70s, and she went terrorizing with them, and what was her name? It was all the news for months. Is that where the captor, the person kidnapped, sort of falls in love with her kidnappers?
Yeah. Right. So I can say it's a proposed condition or theory that tries to explain why. So we're trying to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with their captors. So the idea is like, this person holds your life in their hands. You can only live at the mercy of your captor. The captor provides you food, water, shelter. They're the only person you can talk to, the only person you can relate with. And as Tim Bob points out, it's women, like usually women. I don't know if they really like make men their concubines or sex slaves under Islam, but maybe, sure.
Okay, can we just simplify this for the audience, especially those that maybe missed that part of the, maybe people who missed that part of the debate. Essentially, what we're talking about is, if you rape somebody and then kill them afterwards, is that better or worse than raping somebody and then enslaving them for the rest of their lives? Because that's really what it comes down to, right? Daniel was saying that if you have sex with somebody, you can make them your concubine and set them up and feed them and house them and clothe them and educate them. And that's supposed to be better than just raping somebody and then executing them afterwards.
Yeah,
That's what that was.
It's supposed to be consensual sex.
No, I'm sorry. I'm losing my inner Mark Reed right now. I might have to go.
No, it's very no. There's no apology needed. It's very disgusting. The topic, the first topic I don't want to bring up. I don't like talking about this shit. I cannot believe people have all apologize for friggin' slavery and sex slavery and rape and this stuff with children. People offer apologetics. It's disgusting.
Is it better or worse to kill them, to kill them and discard them like an animal? Because Islam doesn't treat them like animals and just slaughters them afterwards. They enslave them perpetually after the fact. Like,
that's a Talmud
this is the conversation we're having right now.
That was a Talmud claim though too. That wasn't in the Torah. That was like contemplation of supposedly scholarly people.
I mean, the Old Testament says, says that if they would go in, they would slaughter the whole town, and they would keep the young girls that did not know a man for themselves. Okay, you're going to take this girl home. She's a young girl. You've killed her parents, her entire family. You've slaughtered her entire family. Is saving her? Is that humane? And then give her a day or two to get over it? I don't know it's just, I mean, like I said, I think that the sex slave concubine thing is pretty much a Yahweh, Allah, whatever you want to call him, problem to begin with. The Abrahamic religions have trouble in that area, all three of them, actually, in the historical. But I do not believe that the Jewish people live by any of that kind of thing now, and I don't believe that Christians live by that now. And I don't know. I don't know very many Muslims, so I cannot say that Islam. But I do hear Daniel apologizing for it, like making excuses for it, and so that makes me think that maybe that does happen. I'm sure Isa. But I mean, I base my Islam on Isa, so I'd say no. So no.
I just want to point out it's men in position of power using their religion, using their political influence to write laws to justify their immoral acts against people that are weaker and smaller than them.
True.
It's just all it is. Like
humans.
They just want to have control of men. Historically, in most cultures, have justified having control and usurpation, rule over women.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, well, I gave up women 20 years ago. I had enough of it. Yeah, that's it. I had some beautiful women, highly intelligent. We almost got married. They're doctors now, or they're happily married. And
are you celibate now, or something?
Completely. Okay. Completely.
Yeah. Are you fair with Niflin? What's the guy's name called? Something Niflin.
Dunder Mifflin?
No. Niflheim Free is the guy's name. He's a YouTuber, and he's a celibate too. And he check out Niflheim Free. He has similar like arguments, not the same, but similar sort of claims. He like that maybe they're not the same, but he's celibate too for similar reasons, I think. But I want to give everybody a chance to close out the conversation.
Sure. You're going to hate me for this one. You know, when I learned that masturbation was homosexuality, I had to put it aside. So
okay. Well, I don't think Niflheim Free holds that opinion. Let's just say Niflheim Free may believe that when he's in the shower doing that, he's not having homosexual sex. He's having
homosexual sex. Darn it.
Okay, dang it. I'm gay then. I'm a proud gay man or bisexual, I guess.
I'll send you a rainbow flag for your birthday.
Thank you. I'm more than happy to put up a rainbow flag on my wall. So
there you go.
Okay, but I'll give you a minute there, Wesley, to close out, and we'll give everybody a minute. Then we'll end the conversation. But yeah, I don't think it's homosexual to masturbate. But I respect that's your view. I just disagree with it.
Sure. All right. I got 1 minute or 60 seconds.
What? Yeah, just take a moment. As long as we don't go too far off track into the weeds, Wesley. Go ahead.
It is time. That's the word of God. It is time. That means now. So I saw the vision. I saw my filthy soul where I claimed I was baptized and I believed and all this. And my soul was dead ashes from head to toe, like pig fat on a fire. But they were oiled, not dry. And there was a pearl of light in my belly. Now I'm going to speak from that pearl of light because I told this and that devil couldn't get into me that told you I will turn and toss you like a ball. I fail you. I fail you from my branchless faith. So Jesus showed me straight branchless trees. I fail you walking a crooked path in life. When I fail you, I fail God, and he is Yeshua. So he showed me a crooked path of circle saws, and they were spinning by themselves. They mean I fail you doing magic, wizardry, sorcery, and witchcraft. Magic means watching too much TV. So I also fail you being silent about this dream. And that's the meaning of those circles that were bigger around than my outstretched arms, half in and half out of the ground, made of gold and silver with rusted, serrated edges. And there was a black shoe on the foot that was cut off. And the meaning of that black shoe is all my reasons, all my logic, all my why is the meaning of that black shoe, and it gets cut off. Tell this vision, and you shall not need the omnimark. Tell this vision, and you shall heal without money. I'm talking of Jesus who said, tell the vision, not Satan that told you don't tell the vision. Okay.
Very, very eloquent. It sounds like I would love to see that written down. It sounded pleasant. I don't agree with any of it, but thank you very much, Wesley. And Issa, 1 minute closing. That was about 2 minutes, but that's okay, Wesley. Go ahead, Issa.
Well, I wanted to do. Oh, it's my fault.
I didn't see that. Oh,
no. The chat said it. I think I've seen Threat Insanity quite a bit. Oh, people want to see me debate. Thank you, Hugh Haman. So I wanted to do a little show and tell because there was a funny thing that I saw in the debate where someone sent a super chat to Daniel and said, you're wearing a kippah and a talis, and he was talking about the kufi and the kafia. So I want to show what they look like because I have them here. So I was going to show what they look like because I have both of the things. So this is what a talis looks like. It's very beautiful. It's a very long shawl, but that's one thing. This is what a kafia looks like. And let's see. And here is, I've got just a couple things here. This is a fez. It's another kind of cap that folks have. This is like a kufi. Here's another one too that you can see. and here's a kippah. So you get to see what all of those kind of different little artifacts that people have in the different spaces.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So that's what I wanted to share.
I love it. Thank you, Isa. 2 wonderful presentations for closing so far. What do you Robin, how are you going to show those 2 people up?
I'm not going to do a show and tell.
Show us the Steely Dan record.
I do want. I would like a Fez though, Isa. I just want to say we need to remember not to intermix the words Hamas with the Palestinian people. Hamas has been in control of those people for a very long time. They've exploited those people. They've stolen from them money, food sources, money that has went to them to aid to them. They have the children that they are saying are, terrorists as children were brought up that way. They don't know, they weren't, they were children when they were taught this. And so we have to remember that these are humans. The Hamas is not these people. And if we got these people, Hamas out of, away from these people, then maybe they would have a better life. And they would not be the neighbors that they are right now. And that's what we need to remember. We need to separate the two and remember that those are human beings that are being mistreated by their own, by the people who are in charge of their lives.
Thank you, Robin. Tyler, you have any closing remarks before we close the stream?
Just in regard to the debate that we're discussing as an after show, I feel that AP's point about if Israel kind of followed through with what they were doing, it would solve a lot of problems because they did have a more secular approach. Whereas if Israel was to completely withdraw, a lot of the problems that we see would still exist because of Hamas and because of Islamic fundamentalism that we see not just in the Israel-Palestine conflict, but also in Pakistan and throughout Europe and pretty much anywhere where there are Muslims. I feel like Islam is the problem, and secularism and human rights is a very good solution that a lot of Muslims aren't going to buy into because they have the Sharia. With that being said, I think that if Muhammad was here today, he would probably be joining Hamas and lending his spear and his efforts to help what they were doing. But if Moses was here, I think he would be very disappointed in the state of Israel. As I understand, um, the most ancient of the Jewish concepts was that Israel was supposed to be a people without a nation. And so if we go one for one as far as spokespersons are concerned, I think once again we can see that the teachings of Muhammad, the life of Muhammad, and therefore the Sharia and the Islamic side of this conflict is what's wrong with this conflict. And again, not just limited to what's happening in Israel, but all over the world, whereas the Jewish side of things is far more reasonable, far more palatable for non-Muslims, non-Jewish people, and just everybody. So I feel that that's why AP won the debate, and it's very clear what the problem is. And I thank you all again for having me. And this was a wonderful discussion. Good night, everyone.
Barkin, thank you so much, Tyler, for coming on. No channel memberships. What do you mean, Hugh Hammond? Yeah, we didn't get any channel memberships today. I owe somebody a channel membership, I think, but they needed to send me their way to send them money, $3. So I just want to close it out. Thank you, everybody, for coming up on stage. I hope we provided a platform where you can get your voice out to differing opinions and views. Definitely different views today. Thank you very much, Wesley. Very unique presentation. I appreciated it. With that, we got the next show we have scheduled isn't until this Sunday, but if there's any other debates coming up, we're going to have some pre-shows and after shows. I take that back. Wednesday, it hasn't been scheduled yet. should probably be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We should be talking about some Greek mythology with Max running the show. So hopefully that comes in tomorrow. Oh yeah, there should be a way to buy a channel membership.
I thought Justin said that there was a debate tomorrow.
Is there a debate tomorrow? No, he was kidding. I think he wants to. Oh, are dragons real? Was he serious about that?
I don't know.
Let's check. Maybe he was serious. Like that makes sense. That's on brand for. I would love to do. I was like kidding. Like think he was kidding. I would love to have that debate.
I saw a boot on a severed foot. Do I get a pearl now? Just
a pearl in your chat. Yes, tomorrow we'll have a pre-show and after show on Real Dragons debate with Benjamin White versus Mark Drysdale. Oh my goodness, I hear something. New subscriber to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel.
Oh yeah, dragons are real. 32 Chinese submarines that'll be parked off of the California coast.
Well, then you should come on to our pre-show at 7:15 p.m. tomorrow and our after show probably sometime around 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please sure to hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and you'll see those being scheduled probably sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. Depends on, well, wait, it's still early. It's only 8 p.m. right now. So I probably do it tonight. So with that, I just want to say I've been to Israel. I've been to Palestine. If you want to call those territories Palestine, I think it's fair to do so today. And I love the people there. I had like one minor experience I just laughed off because I thought it was hilarious. But I've told that story before. I'm not going to share it today. I don't think it's appropriate. But I love people all across the world. I wish we didn't have wars, but wars are a consequence of people with varying ideas living close together. We have 8 billion people. Fortunately, there's only 2 minor conflicts. I mean, they're not minor to the people there. Let's be fair. And with that, please watch the show tomorrow. Please like, share, subscribe. There's a survey in the description. Please fill out the survey. Please join our Discord. And with that, I'm going to end the stream and say bye-bye.